All right, good evening and maybe good morning, good afternoon to people. I know we have attendees that are in other parts of the world. I'm not sure if you're already logged in right now. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us for this session. This is our October Mentoring Matters from the Mentoring Club. And I'm really happy to see a lot of the mentors attending and also mentees that are starting to sign in. So appreciate that very much. Our program is so for the next 4 minutes now, I will talk about the Mentoring Club. And then at around 6:35 for about an hour and 20 minutes, Mary, our mentor speaker, will share with you her research experience and some conclusions around what keeps you from leaving a job that you hate and cover that controversial topic with all of us. And then we'll spend another 5 minutes for some announcements just to let you know what's happening within our community and the next events that will be available to all of you and even your friends. And after that, we will have the virtual networking and we will have some guides for you as to what you can cover during the 20-minute virtual networking. And then we will wrap up for for the last 10 minutes of the session. So here's a little bit information about the Mentoring Club. You can follow us in social media on 4 channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we do have our YouTube channel as well. So you can find all the recordings in our YouTube channel. So I want to bring this up to the top just to recognize people who have been consistently and constantly helping us and tirelessly making sure that these events happen. So we have our partners, of course, we have our volunteers here right now, Breen, Donna, Hong, Mo can't make it tonight. And of course, our mentor speaker for tonight, Mary. And the rest are actually helping us in the background, marketing and infrastructure support. And of course, fundraising as well. And we have some news for you about the fundraising later. So now, who are we? So for those of you who are new or attending this session for the first time, I know I see a lot of mentors and mentees. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and I set up the Mentoring Club in order to provide a mentoring community for initially young leaders, but over time it has evolved recognizing aspiring and seasoned leaders as well. So we want to be able to help working people find the right mentors to guide them to develop the skills that they need in order to achieve their career and life goals. And in that process, as they achieve their goals, my goal or my dream is that as mentees become leaders, we would like for them to be mentors to others as well. So that's the cycle of giving back. These are some of our mentors, and you will see some of them tonight in this session. And these are some of our mentees, and you will see some of them tonight also. If they show their themselves on video. So what is the profile of the Mentoring Club right now as far as development areas that mentees have expressed they need help on? These are some of the areas. So if you're new to the community, take a look at this. If you are struggling or if you want some help in any of these areas, so you're in the right community, and we will update this. I've actually asked our Salesforce admin to generate the end of September report for us. So we will update this data for the next meeting. So community industry coverage, we're based out of Silicon Valley. So it's not a surprise that information technology is #1, but we do cover a lot of other industry sectors as well from among our mentors and mentees. And then as far as geographic distribution in the US is concerned, a huge population of our mentors and mentees are based out of California, but we also have mentors out of the state. And right now our speaker is actually from Texas. So she's staying up late for us. And as far as global distribution is concerned, we do have mentors and mentees in other parts of the world as well. Now, so going into the topic, what keeps you from leaving a job you hate? So hopefully the reason why you're here is because you got intrigued by the topic. And I just wanted to share, normally, as I present or as I introduce speakers, I really don't talk about their achievements. I let them introduce themselves. But what I do talk about is how I met them, because some of the mentors that are in the mentoring club are longtime friends, but a lot of the mentors in the mentoring club I met as strangers. So I met Mary in 2018 when I went to the emotional intelligence conference that my mentor for the mentoring club, Margot Murray, actually invited me to go to. And she was in that session and we talked about what I've been doing, and she was starting her practice as a certified coach. And she loved the idea, so she joined us right after that session. So I'll give the floor to Mary.
So I'm excited to be here tonight, and I am ready to deliver great content that I trust it will be relevant to you. And I would like to get started by sharing a career story. It was the year 2017, and I was feeling quite miserable in a full-time job as an HR manager for Latin America. The market in my company was shrinking, and my entire region probably needed to reduce in half. And I was in charge of that project. And I had probably around 200 employees that I had to lay off. It was late in the process, and those people have been gone in around 4 countries that I have traveled to deliver those news and then do the terminations. And I was exhausted, I was stressed out. And I had to take a trip to Veracruz in Mexico. And when I was walking the hallway to go to my meeting to meet my manager, an engineer met me in the hallway. And instead of she greeting me, she opened her big eyes and she had an expression of terror when she saw me. And I have to say, don't worry, Carolina. I'm not here to let anyone go. I'm just here to attend a meeting with your manager. And that night, I realized that that career not only was making me miserable, but was making others miserable. So I'm here to open a discussion and to create a forum of conversation so we can talk about what really makes a job satisfying. And if you are in a situation where you are employed, but you hate what you do, what is what you must do? You should stay or you should go. And to have that conversation, I have prepared a very interesting dynamic. We're going to talk a little bit about what is job satisfaction. That conversation will lead us to really talk about what makes a job ideal. Is there such a thing as an ideal job? And if so, how do you find that one? Then I'm going to talk a little bit about 3 steps to help you build some career clarity. And then the second part of my presentation is about what happens if you feel that you are stuck in a job that you hate. Should you stay? Should you leave? And if you decide that you are ready to leave, what will be the way out? And then we will wrap up, and then we will discuss some takeaways. And it's my expectation that my presentation will be dynamic, that you can participate, and we have prepared some activities so you can feel engaged, and then you get great value from this presentation. So we're going to start exploring where you are. First of all, if you are employed, and if not, then we're going to ask how satisfied are you with your current job? And if you don't have a job right now, how satisfied were you with your previous job? And we want to see what you get in a scale from 5 points, from a strongly dislike to I'm not sure to like to strongly like. So if we could get that poll out and get a taste of the audience and see where we are.
Okay, so I will end the polling, and here's the results, Mary.
A little bit more than half, 54%, are employed. And from them, from the ones employed, around 62%, they say they like their job. And then we have 15% that they dislike their job. So there are not that many. I will expect that there will be more. Mm-hmm. And then one person is unsure. So you might even be enjoying more my first part of my presentation than the second part. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about job satisfaction and what is job satisfaction. Job satisfaction actually is a sense of enjoyment, and it's a feeling that you like what you do and that your job generates a feeling of fulfillment and that you feel happy and content. That experience is very subjective because we are motivated and we like different things. And what it is satisfying to you, to Chuck, to Hong, to Liesel, is not the same that it could be satisfying to me. That is why job satisfaction is a very subjective experience. There are elements that impact the way you feel satisfied on your job. And those 4 elements are personal factors that are very related to who you are as a human being, the work that you do, the organization that you work for, and the work environment in that organization. You can tweak this because if maybe you are an entrepreneur and you have your own business, you are the business maybe, so it's about your personal brand. In every way, these 4 factors are interacting in a dynamic way, and they determine the level of job satisfaction that you are going to experience. And if we go to more detail, these are the factors and what they entail. For example, personal factors are your interests, your personality, your needs and values. Values are the things that matter the most to you. And the stage in your life where you are, because it's not the same to be in early career stages when you are beginning your career that someone like me, which I am in my very latest stage of my career. All these factors are intrinsic to you, and they are extremely important because for you to know what is your ideal job, it's important that you explore who are you as a human being, as a person. The second element is the work that you do. And that is basically the scope and responsibilities and the task, the nature of the job, how much autonomy you have for making your own decisions, and how meaningful that job it is for you. Actually, right now is research that is moving away from thinking that we should have to be happy in our jobs to seeking that we should be looking for meaning. And that's why meaning in a job is an important factor of job satisfaction. Then the organization that you work. What are the values of that organization? How is the compensation? Do you have opportunities to grow and being promoted? And lastly, the work environment. Do you work by yourself or do you work embedded in a team? Do you like your boss? And do you like the co-workers and the people that work with you? Do you like the working conditions? And even here, we can even add some other factors such as commuting. Now that we are after pandemic, the way we work has changed so significantly. So now we are working from home, we're mostly remote. All those environmental factors really impact that you will like your job or not. But how important they are, you decide. And that's actually bringing me to my next question. What is the most important factor that impacts your job satisfaction and why? And when I ask, I'm referring to these 4. Now, I actually wanted to suggest that we do some breakout rooms and we go and take this question to a breakout room. What is the most important factor impacting your job satisfaction and why? So welcome back. And if you had a volunteer from each of the groups that will summarize what was the sharing in your team? What was kind of the trend there? Go, Daniel.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry for the other two members, especially Joy and Hong, because I didn't realize it was 5 minutes, so I kind of took most of the time. So I apologize. But I'll give you a quick note of some of mine. Some of my unsatisfactions were lack of fulfillment of the work that I was doing, as well as company culture. And I believe Joy mentioned that she was unsatisfied with, amount of work that she was putting in, and the people around her were getting promoted or getting career growth, while um, she wasn't able to experience the same thing. And for Hong, it was more of purpose in terms of his satisfaction of going to work.
Very good. So you actually tweak it and you say what you don't like. But
Yeah.
interesting because that was the topic that brought us together. So it doesn't matter how you say it. I heard what it was important, fulfillment and company culture for you, Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you for sharing. A second group, who will want to share?
My group was Karina, Jonathan, and Sonia. The
Yes.
team, the work environment, social impact, and inspiring others. And there was a certain shared agreement as each person would present their own. Obviously, a lot of factors add up. My focus is on, if we do business right, there's no need for anybody to fail. It's coaching with all winners. That's my game.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Good point. Actually, having the work environment extremely important, and a work that inspires others. And if it inspires you, for sure it's going to inspire others, and how important that is. So let's hear about a third team.
I'll go ahead. I was actually in your group, Mary, but for everyone else, my values that I valued most were the work itself, and then also the company values, most specifically transparency. So I kind of couldn't limit it to just one category. And then the other gal in our group, Anagha, said that her big value was being able to be recognized for the work that she's doing, and having a clear and fair path to progress and develop that.
Very good. Yes. I mentioned that for me, it was actually doing the nature of the job, but most importantly, the impact that it creates. So now we have two more groups, right, Liesel?
In Breakout Room 4, I'd like to nominate Uday. Uday, are you available to talk about it?
Yes. So in our group, it was myself, of course, John Van Hatteren, and Donna. And I guess we didn't realize, but the 5 minutes went by pretty quick. I took most of the time. And so for me, it was two things, or two categories, kind of three categories, I guess. One was the work environment, which was about supervision, the level of supervision, not too structured, at the same time allowing for some creativity, room for creativity. And like the previous speaker said, that the company values, if they're aligned with my personal values, that'd be easier for me to work with the company. And John was about to speak in the last 13 seconds that the nature of the work itself is the most important part for him, but he did not get the chance to elaborate. So if you'd like to elaborate, John.
For many people, they feel more proud if their voice is heard by a greater audience. So job scope and what is your influence within the company? That is something that I regret to say is something that appeals to me. I put that high on the list.
Thank you, John. And that's what I mentioned, that job satisfaction is such a subjective factor. It really depends on what are your needs, who you are, what motivates you, what skill set do you possess. the talents that you, the passions, interests, in what industry you are, and many other factors. So when you say what you like, is that who you are? It's not good or it's bad, it's just what it is. So then do we have one more group, right?
There you go.
Okay, all right. Hey, my name's Rupinder. So yeah, I was in group 3, I believe. It was myself, Breen, and Michael. Breen mentioned he is retired, but he did share one of the things that annoyed him back in the day is like people in the team not pulling their weight, which ended up being like something that connected with me right now, because the project I am working on, one of my staff, he's not doing as much as he should be, and the deadline is pretty close up ahead. So as the senior in charge, like I get to do the extra work that's not being done. But one of the other things me and Michael talked about, Breen is showing the mentoring club shirt. Yeah, one of the things Michael and I agreed on, because we're still early in our years of professional life, both of us ranked kind of upward mobility as higher on the list at the moment. Since right now, he's been working for about 5 years, I've been working for 4, so still early, and then just seeing how much we can grow and just go up the, I guess, corporate ladder, you can say. That's something that's important.
Thank you, Rupinder, for your participation. And yes, when others are not pulling their weight and you feel you're doing most of the work, it's really frustrating. That is related to the work environment and even your coworkers. And we're going to discuss in the second part of the presentation about those factors that are really, really annoying, that you wish they would not be there. And some of them are negotiable, some of them are not. And then the upward mobility, I heard you saying too, that someone in your team had that as an important factor, and it is. And it depends. I do a lot of career transition because in my day, one of my day jobs is actually to be a career coach for brand management. And I speak to maybe 20, 30 candidates who are in the process of finding employment. And if it is very late in their careers, they're really thinking about what they want and they want to be authentic about it. They don't want to be in a situation where they are in another job that they will still hate. They want to make sure that they will find a job that will satisfy their needs.
I think we covered all the 5 groups.
Okay. So as you can tell, I was bringing a little bit of a difficult situation by asking you to decide what was the most important factor. And I think in our group, we reflected upon that. Haku mentioned it, right? That it was hard to choose only one. Yes, and that was done by design, because when I asked you what is the most important factor, in your mind, you have to go through some kind of prioritization. You have to kind of ponder, right? You have to discern in a way what is the most valuable to you. And this is good food for thought, because when we are in working, especially if we are in a very high activity, very demanding job, we usually don't have a lot of time for reflection. We are just going. We are just, as Brian said, he had a long day, right? So in a day like he has today, how much time is there to reflect, to really think, to do some soul seeking, to ask yourself tough questions? Usually there is not. So we go in about our careers in much of an automatic pilot mode. And it's not until we find ourselves in a forced stop, either via that we lost our job or we couldn't hold it anymore and we just have to go, and we become in a crisis situation. And this is the times where we stop and we analyze. So what I'm saying is, why do we have to wait for to be in a job transition of some sort, to really decide what is important to you and to pay attention and seek for that matters to you. So I really hope that this activity has brought some awareness to you and had brought at least a level of importance of what really matters to you in a job, and that by having that information, you can become more intentional and you can create situations where you can really do more of what matters to you. This is a little bit of thought-provoking content. Does an ideal job exist, or is it just in an imagination? Is it possible that we can find a job that is just perfect for us, where we feel completely content and happy, where we say, oh my God, I love my job? According to Ken Coleman, there are 3 factors that make a job ideal. 3 things: your talents, your passions, and your mission. Oh, Liesel, by the way, I forgot to ask you if they had a handout with them.
The handout is available on the Eventbrite, but I can show them how to find it later.
Okay, excellent. Because I have created a handout where you can be even responding or even taking notes for you. But if you have any paper and pencil or a pen, and you can write some ideas of what is transpiring here, of what makes a job ideal, I will invite you to write them down. So when we think about talents, that is what you do best. And talents are very particular too. Even, let's say Brian, I know Brian is a professional speaker, and he does presentations and speaking engagements, personal excellence and motivation and things like that. I also do speaking. So my talents and Brian's talents might be similar, but the way that I deliver my talents to the world are very particular and personal to me, and the Brian's talents will be delivered in Brian's way. My talents are delivered in Mari's way. It's important that you know what is that you do best. So as you hear me saying, what do you do best? I want to invite you to think and then come with at least one thing that you think you do best related to your job, because that's what we're talking about. Your passions is what you love to do most. And that is, sometimes people say, yeah, it couldn't be my hobby. No, it wouldn't be, because you want to be paid for it. And you want to be paid enough that you can make a living out of those things that really you love doing. Your mission is the results that matter. And when we went in the group discussion, we heard saying purpose. I heard saying the impact of what I do. I heard saying how I can contribute. So when we say that we really care about that, we're saying that this is the mission that we have. And I can see how I am in an ideal job as a career coach. It is a tough space because for the most part, I'm talking to fellows who are really disappointed, and they are probably discouraged. They probably have put a lot of job applications out there, and then they're getting very limited responses, and they are just losing their energy and their motivation. And I get on the phone with them, and I go with their ups and downs. I can find tools, I can find resources within me to connect with their energy. And it is my mission that by the time they finish the call with me, they will feel much better. And for the most part, that really motivates me. If there will be someone in this audience who will hate my job, who will say, no way I'm gonna do that. But I do it happily because it's just perfect for me. I get so much satisfaction out of giving someone some kind of push to make that phone call, to submit that resume, to connect with someone and network. But there will be some of you that will hate doing that. So that's why an ideal job is ideal for you. It's ideal for Bryn, for Daniel, for Liesel. It is very personal experience. Now I want to bring the topic of clarity. Clarity is power. Why is so important? Because when you are clear of who you are and what you want, that clarity provides you focus. And then with that, you can really be intentional and proactive about your career. Most of us start our careers in a specific field. For example, I studied psychology, and I thought that I would be working as a clinical psychologist in a hospital, or I will have private clients. I ended in the organizational field doing a master's in organizational psychology, and then doing a career of 30 years in human resources. At the moment that I started my career, I was really not clear. I didn't know what I could do with my skill set. And the opportunity presents itself that I will get this job or that job, and I needed a job, so I got those jobs, but they were really not necessarily what I was looking for. But when you know what you want, it's different. It is like a sailor who goes and navigates a sailboat without really knowing where he or she is heading, versus the sailor who has a clear destination. They sail the boat, tackling into the wind to that destination. And that analogy of the sailboat, I love it. And it is really applicable to a career, because I don't know how many of you have done sailing or have taken sailing lessons. I do have a sailing certificate. And when taking those classes, I learned so much that when you sail, you actually don't go on a straight line. You tackle to the wind. You open the sail, you close the sail, you tilt here and there. You are kind of playing games with the wind to make it to your destination.
A couple of months ago, Brian Balch gave a presentation. He spoke about goals, but he also spoke about, in some cases, the journey itself is more important than the destination. I'm just wondering, you're talking about a sailing destination as opposed to the journey. If people imagine, I want to be vice president, that's my destination. Is that the kind of goal you had in mind, or did you have the journey, and whether you make vice president or not is kind of less relevant?
Yes, and I would say it's both. Because I know that when I have been in a sailboat, and I'm enjoying myself, I'm enjoying the bay and I'm also immersed in the process of operating the sailboat with everything that it has. It's a lot of moving parts all together. A career is like that. It is important that we take care of the journey, as you say, but we also have a destination in mind. And there are some beliefs about careers, maybe inspired by our grandparents or our parents. Even though I was not born in this country, I am what is considered a baby boomer because of my demographics when I was born. Maybe there was the expectation that we would stay in a career where we would retire from. I help candidates, they were laid off by their companies, and some of those people were working for the same company 30, 35 years, 40 years of their life. And there's only one workplace that they were at. That's very rare on these days, because the average American, according to the research I had conducted, changed jobs approximately every 5 years. And when you think about it, that's a lot of switching. That means that every 5 years, we are actually in a job campaign of some sort. Careers are not linear anymore. And the idea that we have of making to a specific destination is even probably challenging too, because you might be even changing industries. And changing right now is happening with the pandemic. A lot of the industries where there used to be high paid jobs, those industries are collapsing, and we see the example of oil and gas. And then I have a lot of candidates that I'm helping, and they're seeking career changes in industries because it's not sustainable for them. So this is a very long answer to say, yes, the journey is extremely important. And actually the journey is how you manage your career. And it's not only the destination, but the different steps along the way. It's important that you ask these 3 important questions. For your talents, what do you do best? What do you know for sure that you are good at? It could be also a combination of what others say that you are good at. Passions. What is something that you love to do the most? And your mission. What are the results that matter the most to you? And when you can respond those three questions, you will be in your ideal field or in your ideal job. I want to talk a little bit about the destination, because I'm suggesting that having a vision for the career that you want is important, that not only you have a vision, but that you embrace that vision. And that vision should be combining your talents, your passion, and your mission, or the difference that you want to create. In my research that I have done in different generations at work, we find out that what is called millennials generation are particularly interested in purpose and meaning. They really want to do work that is significant and that can create a difference. I see Liesel nodding, and I don't know if you want to, do you want to interject an idea about what you find in the mentoring club regarding these demographics?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if the mentors remember when I was recruiting each one of you, I may have mentioned that I really don't agree with what media is stating about the millennials being privileged, or they take things for granted, because all of the millennials that I have met so far are really looking for meaning, looking to make a difference, and they're very passionate about what they want to do in the world. So that's why I was nodding.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And I also have experienced a lot of, I have one daughter that is a millennial, and she's very much disinterested in what my previous generation would be, as she's really interested in making a difference. So now I wanted to create some engagement, and this is where we wanted you to use the annotation capability in Zoom, because I wanted to hear from you if you know what you want to be doing in 5 years regarding your career. And if you can use some of that white space in the slide and share with us in the audience some ideas of what is something that you are interested in doing in your job in 5 years.
Control is showing you are viewing Mary J's Perez screen, and then you have view options. Click on view options, and then you will see annotate, and click on annotate, and then you will see selections. You'll see T or text. Click on that, and you can start putting in text on her slide.
So we actually have one person who said that he or she wants to be managing a team, lead a group of scientists in developing new medical device features that reach the market. Wow. Living abroad, still executive coaching, consulting, travel.
That's the retired. I saw it came from Breen, right?
Yeah,
Go for
that's
it.
right.
Go for it, Breen.
Oh, yeah.
Managing and leading projects, making quality learning, write a book about the learning so far, starting a company in a field that I enjoy, still to be decided, working with individuals and organizations on an international level, promoting the mentoring club globally, mentor to 4-6 startups in technology, where I continue doing significant research.
Making quality learning and training accessible and affordable for people.
Oh, I love that one. I noticed that what you want to do, go back to shaking hands. And I can see that what you want to do has really an impact. It could be an impact in your organization. It could be an impact for the work that you do. For example, that lead a group of scientists developing new medical devices that can reach the market. And also, for example, promoting the mentoring club globally. Can you imagine how broader that impact can become? Depending on where you are, that impact is really can reach out more when you can increase the scope of your job. master managing and leading projects, managing a team. Also, when you manage a team, you are leading others. So you not only are doing meaningful work for you, but you're also impacting the lives of those who you lead. And all this is important. And that's why it makes a difference when you know what is your destination. Because when your vision is something that really motivates you, that is really important to you, you are going to be willing to go for the ups and downs of a job. When you have a vision and you know where you're heading, you can see the big picture. You can stand or even be willing to overcome the difficulties of a specific situation, knowing that is something ahead that you want to go towards. And then you're willing to navigate or tackle with the wind, as I was doing with the analogy of a sailboat, to get to that destination. And that's why having a vision is extremely important, and is something that it will create meaning in what you do. Because now I wanted to invite us to go to the second part of the presentation, and that's probably the reason why you wanted to come here for the first time from beginning with. Even though when we put the poll together, we realized that not many of you are really dissatisfied with your job. So here we are, but let's talk about it. And why it's important? The statistics indicate that maybe more than half of the people are feeling discontent in the work they do. They feel stuck, they feel that they dislike what they do, and they're finding their way out. What is that keeps most people from leaving a job? Most of the literature and the articles that I read on this topic indicate laundry list, 15, 20 reasons. When I compiled them all, these were the 5 most frequent reasons why people don't leave jobs. Fears and insecurities, because they say, what about if I don't find another job? And isn't that relevant right now when we have 40 million people unemployed and a double-digit unemployment rate in the United States? And there is a limited supply and a very, very high demand for jobs and limited supply. So it is understandable that if you are really thinking about leaving your job, you might be fearful, and that is understandable right now. Insecurities. Insecurities are not so much about out there, the job market, but insecurities are very much about you. And they might be those limiting beliefs that you have, or probably where you are really unsure that you will be marketable enough, or you don't know how to market your credentials. Maybe you think that you dislike doing networking, or you really don't know how to go about finding a job because you don't want to be there, or you are insecure about yourself. Not being clear, that's the reason that we discussed. Not knowing where you're heading, not being so clear about what is ahead for you, where you want to go. Your comfort zones keep you where you are. Because a comfort zone is that feeling of the routine, the knowing what you're doing every day, knowing where you're heading. On those days that we used to commute for work, it would be the commute to work. That makes it really comfy, even when you don't like it. And most of us resist change, and we want to stay in what we know.
Yeah, I'm also curious. You've listed these 5 factors. Now, I'm aware of some people who they look for a new job while still on the old job, and that addresses your first 2 bullets. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering, in your role as a career coach, what are your comments on searching for a new job while employed versus while not employed?
Yes, and you brought a good point. When you are employed, the best thing is to stay in your job and look for a job when you have your salary. Now, if you're in a situation, and that's what I was about to discuss next, if you're in a situation where there is no possible way to stay, then you have to leave. Now, the question that I was formulating in here is why people don't leave jobs they don't like. And in the majority is because they make a very good salary. There is a salary market. There are companies who pay on the 25th percentile. There are companies who pay at market, which is the average. And there are companies that pay above the average. And they might be in the 75 percentile of salary for that particular industry and that particular job. So if they are in a very highly paid job, when they start searching the job market, they realize that for them to leave, they will have to get a significant cut pay, and then they are not willing to. Maybe they are raising a family and they have obligations, and or they have kids in college, and there are so many reasons. Maybe they have some pre-existing conditions, and for them to leave a job that have very good benefits might be something that is not feasible or not even convenient for them or their family. And those reasons really keep people in jobs that they dislike. Do you know of any others, and I'm opening to the audience, do you know any other reason why you wouldn't leave a job that you dislike?
Sometimes you have friends in your workplace. You have colleagues that you're good friends with. You might hate your boss, but you have good buddies on the job. And so that's, I guess that's part of your comfort zone, but it's a friendship bonding.
Yes, that is an important one, because one of the reasons why we get satisfaction from our job is the social element. And there are many people who really are attached to their group, even their manager. The majority of the people will leave because of a bad manager, but when you have a good manager, it's difficult to leave. By the way, when I was telling my career story at the beginning of my engagement, and I told you that there was a time where I say, this is it, I cannot stay in this job any longer. I had a wonderful boss. When I was traveling internationally, she would be taking notes of my schedule, and she would be calling me at the places. For example, I was going to Latin America. Let's say that I was going to Peru or Colombia. She will call me at my hotel to find out if I had arrived well. She wanted to know about how the journey was. And she will be calling me at home when I made it back to Houston. And she would say, you must be exhausted. You have been traveling for 2 weeks in a row. I want you to take some time off. Don't even tell me how many days. Just stay at home until you feel recovered and come to the office when you feel good. She was amazing. It was difficult to leave her. So that's an example of these elements that attach us to jobs that we don't like.
I have one more to add. Hope maybe I'm the only one here, but laziness. Sometimes you're just in the job and, well, it's good enough, and looking for another job takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of focus, and it takes time and dedication. And I'd say there's a small part that goes hand in hand with laziness that is valid or otherwise optimism that things will change, right? Or that maybe you might be able to change your workspace in some way that you like better, but they kind of go with each other. If you're going to be lazy about it, then you have to hope it's going to get better.
Yes, and that could be a magical thinking on your side, because it's so comfy here. I remember in one of my jobs, it was the job where I was the most miserable, and it was another job that it was not a good fit for me, because it was in a stock market. It was a trading floor. That's the word that I was looking for. And that was a brand new building. It was so high tech that you would come into the meeting rooms and you will look up and all the lights will rise. And we're talking about 8 years ago. It was super high tech technology. They have all these fancy coffee machines, and everything will smell new. And so was the sleek and modern work environment was beautiful, and had all these flashing lights and everything. But the nature of the job was really not good for me. So you really have to weigh what really matters to you, and to what point you want to stay in something that is really not for you. And I wanted us to move to the next slide, which is how you really know that you are in the wrong job. It's important that you really understand what is wrong. What is wrong with your job? Is it possible that you can find some meaning in what you do? It's important also that you stop and ponder. Are you ready to leave? Do you really need to leave? And so sometimes we come to a time where we are habituated to complain about our job, or we complain about our coworkers or our boss, or we complain about politics or whatever annoys us in our job. And then with that negative energy, we tend to see what is not working versus what is working. And I know, Brian, in your presentation, I recall that you mentioned something about the importance of us really staying positive and really looking at what is really what we want. And I think that's why when you feel that you are stuck in a job you dislike, you really have to understand what is really the reason why you want to leave. Is it possible that you find some meaning? In the topic of meaning, one of the most difficult jobs that there are out there is probably being a zookeeper. As a person who is working in a zoo and they have to clean the animals and clean their biological needs of an animal. And a zookeeper makes approximately $25,000 a year. And they are in an environment that is not very friendly. They are surrounded by all these wild animals. And it's really not a fancy job at all. If you talk to a zookeeper, they will tell you that they love what they do. And for them, it's very meaningful. So it really depends on what really is meaning for you and what is important to you, that you can really decide if that is a job for you to stay or not. Let's say that you already have decided that you have to leave your job. There is no way out. It was like that day that I say, after that woman was so scared when she saw me. I even had a nightmare that night at the hotel, and I was flashing in my mind, in my nightmare, all these faces of those people that I had let go, and I could see their faces of anger, terror, fear, etc. And I say, this is it. There is no negotiable. I am gone. I already have made my mind. But I needed to go into an exit plan. I couldn't just quit the next day. I needed to strategize. I needed to plan. I needed to check on my finances. I needed to talk to my family. It was just not like getting my things and go out like that. So it's important that before you head out, you consider these 8 steps that I'm going to share with you. One of them is to check your mindset and assumptions. That means that really making sure that you are clear about what really is important to you, that you are not just being very negative and pessimistic, that you understand what is your thinking process. What is that you dislike about your job so much? Is it something negotiable? As someone of you mentioned, is it something that you will hope it would change, would really change? What it is that you don't like? Is it your boss? Is the commute? Is the nature of the job? Is a combination of all those factors? Make sure you know, where are you heading? Do you have a destination? Have you already explored the job market? Do you have an exit plan? Actually, are you already applying to other jobs? So you really need to understand where you are heading and what are you going to find. When I left that job, I was not interested in finding full-time employment anymore. I really wanted to create my consulting firm, and I knew that I would be self-employed. Being self-employed, if some of you are self-employed, you will know that it's very tough space. You really are coming from a very structured environment where you had a boss, a work environment, an office, a schedule, a salary, benefits, to having nothing. And then you have to start from scratch, creating all those things. And financially speaking, it's really scary, but I was ready. I knew where I was heading. I didn't know all the steps, and I have been self-employed for about 3 years, and there are days they feel very scary still. So it's very important that you know where you're heading. The question number 4, have you used all the resources? And have you even talked to your manager about some needs that you have that probably haven't been fulfilled? Maybe you want a promotion, but you don't feel comfortable asking your manager for a promotion because you might be assuming that you're not going to get it. Or maybe there is something about your job that you do that you could even negotiate the scope with your manager. Maybe there are some solutions that you can find in the job that you have. And the 6, are you well equipped for the change? As I mentioned it when I was, where are you heading? Do you have the skills that are needed? For example, if you're thinking about switching your industry or even your job scope or go to another area, do you have the skills or do you need to retool yourself before you go there? And that brings me to having time to prepare. And one of you mentioned the salary, or you look for another job where you still have one. Yes, that's the ideal situation. So maybe you can create a plan and a timeline, and you can say in 6 months, I'm going to create an exit strategy. Might take the rest of the year, might take a year, but it's important that you create a plan so you know where you're heading. And then when all those factors are there, or the majority of the factors are in place, do the switch. And in order for you to do the switch, you really need to be bold. You need to be confident about what you're doing, and you need to be clear that the decision already has been made. Then go ahead and do the switch. And those are the steps that I have to get you out of a job that you dislike or you hate. Does any one of you had any steps or even comments or any reflections that you want to make in regards to this topic?
One person once gave me advice, and he said, try not to run away from a problem. Instead, run towards a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he phrased it that way because a lot of people, how do you get out of a job that you hate? That title almost implies that you're running away from a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So his philosophy was, yes, you might have a problem, but don't just blindly run away. Run towards a new goal. And I'm looking through your 8 bullets here, and some of your bullets touch on that, but in fact, most do. I just wanted to emphasize that I've known people who've just run away instead of running towards, and I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, the second one is find out, why do you hate your job? And the answer to that should be really a way to clarify, are you running away? And if you don't know why you're leaving, you're going to come into a situation where you will be stuck with the same situation. It will repeat to you over and over until you find the way out. Yes, Brian, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I just want to add that when a person is getting ready to leave a job that they don't like, they need to make sure that they're well aware of what role they play in the problem.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if they aren't getting along with the coworkers, if it's one particular person, they need to figure out a way to either work around that person, because everywhere you go, there's going to be somebody that you may not like. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, no matter where you go, there you are. If you're leaving just because you've built bad relationships and you haven't figured out a way to stop that, the next place you go, you're going to repeat the same problems again. Make sure that whatever reason you're leaving, you've done all you can to correct that problem first.
Yes, and actually I know a person who was leaving a job because he was exhausted. He was working 80 hours a week. He couldn't have weekends. He will miss out all the family activities, and he was burned out. But guess what? He ended finding a job where he's even worse than before. And we don't even see him anymore. He's exhausted. He is unhappy for the most part all the time. And going back to Brian's point, he's really need the one having to do some personal exploration. Why is he finding himself stuck in that situation of overwork? How is he attracting those dynamics to his life? Is he provoking those situations? Is he probably not establishing clear limits? Maybe he has some time management issues. Or maybe it's a combination of that, and that creates the similar situations wherever he goes. And it's not until he will sort out those dynamics that he will release them from his profession, because we bring the issues that we have in our personality, in our habits, preferences, etc. We bring those to our workplaces. And if we're not aware of them, we're dragging them. It's like dragging them wherever we go. So that is important to find out what is wrong. Why are you so discontent? That's why we did the first part of our presentation about really identifying what is your ideal job and creating a vision of what is important to you. So you are not on automatic pilot, making all these decisions that are getting you into similar places. Thank you, Brian. That was a very important comment that you made. What I wanted was to wrap up kind of the main ideas that I shared. One is that job satisfaction is a personal experience. What is satisfying to you is not the same that satisfies somebody else. And you need to know what is really the most important factor for you. When you know what is important to you in a job, you will be more inclined to make the right decisions for you. You don't get stuck on situations that you would regret later. You can do that by really understanding where you are going and having clarity of mind of what is the passions that you have, what are the talents that you possess, and how you want to utilize your passions and your talents to create a difference so that your work that you do has meaning. When things don't go your way and you are not finding what really is non-negotiable for you, be willing to make bold decisions. Be willing to stand for yourself and claim what is important to you. And if that will take you to leaving your job, do it. But make sure that you understand why are you leaving. And make sure you have a plan, an exit plan that will be reasonable and that will allow you to be in a better situation than before, not similar or even worse. And I would say to all that, careers are not linear. It is almost like tackling to the wind, and it's a journey. That is why it's your career journey, and you are the only one who can really experience that journey. And it has been my pleasure to present to you tonight. And I appreciate everyone's participation, ideas, and even thought-provoking comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. So I will take the presentation. So we have time for networking for about 20 minutes, and then 10 minutes we can all come back to the main room and then do some sharing. And that could be, again, some free-flowing discussions. If you have questions for our mentors, or mentor to mentor questions, experiences, that would be great. So let me share my screen just to give you a few announcements that we have within the Mentoring Club. Our next session for November, we're doing it the second Thursday of the month instead of the fourth because of the conflict with Thanksgiving. Same is true for December because of the conflict with Christmas and the holidays. So for November 12, we have, he calls himself Professor Pete Alexander, and he even has a podcast where he really uses that Professor Pete. I haven't actually asked him why, I should, but it's about stress management, how to stop stress from killing you. So I think it's very appropriate, especially now, when we have a lot of different factors in the environment, the pandemic, the elections, so many other things that are happening in our lives. So I hope to see you again, November 12th. And then we have this ongoing partnership with another one of our mentors, Deepali Sinha. And she is a yogi. And we integrated our practice or our classes with her regular classes Wednesdays and Saturdays, so that she doesn't have to come up with a different schedule for the Mentoring Club. So you're all invited if you want to do some investment in your health and some stretches. It's fun, and you can feel the blood flow. So, and the third one that I have here is we just completed the Give Back Lead Forward virtual run, walk, bike fundraiser. It ran from September 9, so 09/09/2020 to 10/10/2020. But we have extended the donations part of it through the end of the month, so October 31. So if you're interested or if you'd like to promote the Mentoring Club to your family, friends, and connections, please let them know that we're still accepting donations using Facebook, the Run Sign Up platform, or the Mentoring Club website. And thank you very much for all of those who have supported us. And here are some photos to share with you of how those events came to be. So this photo and this photo were during the kickoff. We did that in San Francisco at Land's End. And then the closing, we did it at Quarry Lakes in Fremont. So some of the folks that are in this session are also participated in the closing. So thank you very much for all those who have participated. And the last two photos are the photo contest winners. So this is Daniel, or is Daniel still here? And his mom actually submitted this photo. So his mom won the photo contest award for the running segment of the event. And then who is this? This is Breen. And so our media editor, ever dedicated and reliable, we will actually post some stories behind the photos in our social media channels. So watch out for those. And now going into the virtual networking, here's a guide for your discussions in the breakout rooms for your networking. You're welcome to turn on your video if you're comfortable. And in terms of what to share with each other, definitely introduce yourself. If you are going to have other people in the breakout room different from the initial breakout room that you were part of, please go ahead, introduce your name. Why did you decide to attend this session? And then a couple of topic questions based on Mary's sharing with us tonight. What is the one key takeaway you got from the session? And what is the one action that you are planning to take after today's session? And so after 20 minutes, we will get back into the main room, and then it will be an open discussion for everybody to share their thoughts and experiences and takeaways. How were your conversations? And Mary, how would you like to facilitate?
Yes, I just wanted to hear what are the takeaways out there, that something that it was significant for you. It could have said a phrase I said, it was an idea, a step, something that you bring with you.
And what is that one thing that you are taking away? And that is what is that one thing that you would do after the session?
Yes, and sometimes they are related.
For Breakout Room 4, as there were 2 mentors and 1 mentee, I think we should ask Uday to speak for Breakout Room 4.
Yes. So there were a lot of things discussed, but a few highlights would be, John mentioned soul searching every 5 to 6 years, because the environment that you live in, your stage of life might change. Hence, you have to reconfigure yourself at that time. And because I am in the soul searching stage right now, and the questions Marie talked about, the talent, mission, and passion, I'll be asking myself those questions and detailing it out. There is operations and there's innovation teams, depending on something that is being part of a team doing the same thing again and again, or being part of something that is new, not repetitive, or what is more interesting. Depending on your interests, you could choose one or the other. So that's one interesting point in terms of job satisfaction. Dana also shared her experience of how she transitioned from one to the other. So that was interesting to hear as well.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you for sharing.
There was a consistent message about wanting to be seen as doing something and participating in something meaningful. And that turns out to be a significant factor in the survival of almost any type of organization, whether it's this nonprofit that Liesel has worked so hard to put together, or whether it's a startup trying to bring some benefit to people. Now, I suggest that we forget the most important lesson of childhood. You listened and copied sounds, later constructing phrases, and then deconstructing them into individual words. The very worst word you learned was no, because up until the point you learned no, everything seemed so wonderful and encouraging, but all of a sudden, no, you can't, limits, 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 and depression. And you only learned to walk because you didn't give up. Of course, having a nice thick diaper helped, and not being so tall as we are now. I mean, it does hurt more when we fall down. Now I say this, the hardest intellectual thing you ever did was learn to speak, and some of you I know speak more than one language. And the most difficult physical thing you did was learning to walk. Now you can run and talk at the same time. If you've got the passion, then we can help you do the rest. Right, Mari? That's what you're doing. You're putting wings back on broken dreams.
I endeavor to do so.
Well, I'll say the one thing I shared in room 3 was I believe that, especially for the younger people, you shouldn't tie your job to security. I know a lot of people say, you know, get a good job, work there for 40 years, get the gold watch type of thing. But in all my coaching, anybody that, and even my best friend who works with PG&E's only got like 3 years till retirement. Government employees, whether the post office workers or working for some branch of the government, anybody that I know that's worked for a pension, by the time they get down to their last 2 or 3 years of getting to that pension, they're miserable. They're counting every day till they can retire. And when I know that people are excited about their work, they've gone away from security and gone for, you know, creativity and making a difference and developing and doing new things. So I think that if you're, especially if you're young, you should not be focusing on finding a job with security. The pension is like selling your soul to the devil.
Mm-hmm.
And most people that I know, there may be some that are totally thrilled, but I've never met one.
Any last words from our young folks in the audience?
So I was actually with Brian and Breen in the discussion, and that's like was something we did touch on. Given the environment right now, and kind of the 5 items that we talked about that are difficult, or like why you don't want to leave, like one being fear, the other being like insecurity, or like there being security in the job right now, and given the volatility that's in the market, like there is that fear that if I go to another place, what happens if the company ends up going under? Like, since I've been already here at the firm for 4 years, like I have so many good connections here, like I have a good reputation at the firm. Now if I move over to a new company, how would that impact? And if that actually ends up being counterproductive, or like I go to a company and it actually kind of sets me back, which was like another thing that we talked about, because one of the things was like I'm this close to promotion, like that's basically kind of what's been keeping at my job for the past like year and a half. Like, oh, I'm just about to get promoted, then I'll look for the job, and that's been happening for about a year and a half at this point. And I am finally like getting that promotion in November, but yeah, once I have it, there's still that process I need to figure out. Okay, what do I do next? Like that's still not figured out yet, and that's what I basically still need to do, the soul searching part of like, okay, what is something that I would actually want to do?
And as Brian said, thank you for your participation because it was very, it has a lot of content and a lot of ideas altogether. But Brian said, don't sell your soul for a pension and benefits. I will also say, don't sell your soul for a job title, because just really seek for that meaning, for that difference making that you can find in the job that you do. And also, instead of looking maybe to labels, because now the world of work is so fluid. It's not that progressive line, straightforward from the assistant or analyst to supervisor to manager. Those structures are in some cases non-existent. So it's more about the scope of work, the difference that you can make, the type of work, and how that fits with your talents. And now they talk about job satisfaction and an ideal job. Sometimes they talk about job fit. That means that the job fits who you are. And that those concepts make it more fluid, make it less depending on certain external factors, and it adds more power to you as the driver of your own career.
I just put on the chat to your point. I just put on the chat a quote from Napoleon. It said that soldiers fight hard for a bit of colored ribbon. That's what most of us do.
Yeah, I see that.
Mary, you did a great job. I'm sorry I missed the very first part of it, but I appreciate it. You're very, very knowledgeable.
Thank you, thank you. I could have shared more, but it's of course limited time. And I also, I wanted to make it very interactive so you can bring your ideas.
And you are a mentor in the mentoring club. So is Chuck, John, Brian, Hong, and me. So if you want to reach out to any one of us, if you think we could help you in furthering your journey towards that dream goal, just reach out. So Daniel and Uday are both mentees. And if you want to ask them how their journey is going so far, then feel free to connect with them as well. So really great to see all of you tonight, and thank you for staying. We're a little bit over the time, but I think it's worth it.
Good night.
All right.
Thank you.
Enjoy the journey, everyone. Thank you, Mary,
Thank
and
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.